Yer. Yeah. OKC. The word I wrote down was just dominant, right? Like that's what they were. Like beautiful to watch, like what they did and how they did it. They on both ends of the floor. Um, the rhythm that they had, there was pace, it was up and down, like the first game was, but it was still different. It felt different. The point of attacks were different early. A lot of guys got involved. A lot of guys got touches. I thought the way that Shea handled the rhythm of that game and when he picked his spots was superb, right? Like he still scores 34 points, shoots 50%, but takes 10 less shots, right? And I think that allowed him to pick his spots better and to keep his rhythm better as Indiana would try to make pushes back in the game. Like he was able to be assertive because he hadn't had to really do it the whole night or really search for shots. Like the rhythm, the floor had been so open. He just played the game. And his game is scoring. And everybody on his team knows that. So he doesn't have to fight the game. I thought even though he had a great game in the first game, he had to fight it a little bit because he felt like because other guys didn't really have it going that he had to. You get Chet last night, right? Blocking shots, making threes, running the floor, beat some guys off a closeout. Like, I really still don't think people understand how talented you have to be at his size to do a flyby three to a sidestep, right? Like, or to have the mobility he has and still have the touch he has at his size. I know we're getting used to seeing it and guys are getting bigger and being able to do this because the big guys are playing out on the perimeter more, but it's still not normal. And I think maybe because people don't know how big they are really, like they don't meet, they watch them on TV and they see them with other big guys, so it doesn't stand out as much. But like to do what he does on both ends of the floor is special. And we say it, but to see it on the biggest stage, and I'm glad he was able to have a bounce back game and really be there for it, his team and his teammates. J-Dub was good. Much more impactful in the game. He still can shoot it better. And that's what's even scarier is that he still could play a little bit better, but much more impactful on both ends. Downhill, missed a couple open jump shots, but still downhill, make some passes, make some plays. Think what does he have? 18, 6, and 5 or something like that, which is elite for a second option, right? Like to have a guy give you basically on average 20, 6 and 5 means he's playmaking, rebounding. Obviously, we know he's good defensively, second team all defense this year. But they just seem so balanced. And then Caruso, 20, they get 50 points from the bench. You're not beating anybody that gets 50 points from the bench. Shout out to the bench mob. But 50 points from your bench with the starting lineup like they already have. Hardenstein didn't score as much, but he was so impactful in the game. 8 rebounds, 4 assists, just making the right plays. And that's the way you have to be at this point in time of the season. You just have to be present and make the right plays. You're not going to be the scoring punch every time. And it's good to see guys be able to accept that and not come out of the first game and just expect it to be the same. Shout out to Wiggins. Have a night, man. Biggest stage of your life. Go out there and hit you 5 threes off the bench. Big, long wing on defense, right? Offensive rebounds, plays with a lot of energy. Like they just were so well balanced and they attacked it so well, man. It was, man, like, and even though they won it's still beautiful to watch a team execute like that. That's what I mean about it being good basketball. And there's so much we can learn and take from these games. It's still entertaining if you're watching it a certain way. And them defensively, they took everything away. That was the most beautiful thing about the game. Like, we know they play defense, but they were everywhere. Caruso on Pascal everywhere, just bothering them. The way they rotated, they got to all the corners. They contested everything. Like, they just attacked them. And there was no space for them to allow the comeback last night. And Indy just couldn't that was the first game I watched. They really couldn't figure it. They really didn't find large pockets of rhythm. Like even as the game, they were up and they were down in the beginning. It just never seemed like their rhythm. They were in sync. And it's kind of crazy when you watch the second game. It's almost like them not turning it over was worse. Because in the first game, they turned it over so much they just weren't getting shots to the basket. And it's almost like that protected their rhythm and their confidence. Because it's like, if we could just stop turning it over, we'll be fine. But in the second game, Indy just guarded. I mean, OKC just guarded and made it tough and made it frustrating. And then when you're missing shots and you're not getting the places and you're not getting things and you can't figure it out, that's a little harder. And it's kind of crazy how that affected the game so differently, right? Because they only turned it over 15 times in this game. OKC 13 times. But it was just interesting to watch how that was such a different dynamic of the game, and you would think that them not turning it over early would make it better. But it just showcased OKC's true nature defensively. And then I think Indy defensively wasn't that great. OKC shoots 49%, basically make every other shot high 48%, right? Like they gave up a bunch of open threes and they didn't get any. And they got to guard the pick and roll different. Like if Shay's, you might as well go double Shay out on the floor if he's going to get to split the pick and roll every time. Because every time he split the pick and roll, they got an open three or he got obviously directly at the rim. So if you're going to have two behind the basketball, you might as well go double it. At least he gets off and somebody else has to go make the play. But they got to do something different with that pick and roll. And they just got to figure it out. This is the first game I watched where Pascal seemed like he just couldn't find it. They switched the guards on him. He ducked in a lot earlier. They couldn't get it to him. Was he 3 for 11 in the game? Naismith shot the ball well still, 4 for 8. A couple of them were late in the game in the push, but like Obi Toppin had a rough one tonight, 1 for 8, right? They just couldn't really find anything. And then they go on the one run I thought that was going to really get them back in. They went like a 10, 12-point run in the second half. But because because OKC had so much rhythm and such better spacing and feel with all the other guys on the floor being threats now too, they just couldn't figure it out. And it allowed Shea to continue to just attack and do what he was doing because there was so much they had to worry about now. I think Rick's going to make some adjustments, so we know that. He tried to make some during the game, and they tried. OKC did it this game too. OKC threw some matchup zone at them here and there. They kind of threw off their rhythm when they thought they were getting a comeback going. That was really good. I think Indiana's going to come with a lot of energy at home, obviously. And they're going to have some tweaks. We got to get Halliburton more aggressive. And I don't even really mean just shooting the ball. I think just aggressive, like in all around. And I think that's the next step that he takes as the leader of this team, as the guy of his team, right? Like, is understanding that the game was calling for him to be more aggressive. I know he likes to play off his some and play and let it come to him some, but like the game last night was literally asking him to be aggressive and to go. I think he's got some pockets in the mid-range, some floaters, some pull-ups that he's got to get to, he's got to take, but he just got to get downhill. Like Shea plays downhill all game. And it makes a difference. And like he's a willing passer with a bunch of shooters around him. Like he just got to find better ways to get downhill and just be in attack. He's going to make the right play. He makes the right reads. That's what he does. But he just wasn't aggressive enough with it until late. And it was out of reach at that point. Again, I don't think it has to be scoring, but I think when he's aggressive like that, he's better defensively also. Like it might not be a 30-point triple-double with no turnovers, but it's got to be more than that. The feel of it. Because when he's engaged, when he's going, he gets deflections on the defensive end. The pace of the game is a pace that nobody can play with when he's engaged defensively also. But again, I think they're going to go back to Indy, and there's going to be a lot of energy in Game 3, obviously with their home crowd. Excuse me. and I think it's gonna be a fun game to watch. Your boy's gonna be there, so obviously it's gonna be a fun game to watch. Um, but the biggest thing that's been interesting in these playoffs for me is these sway games like this that have been happening in every round on both in both conferences, right? And it's like I've been calling it the making of a killer instinct, meaning you got all these young teams now becoming the big dogs, and a lot of teams are getting new experience, being in new positions, and not understanding the mental fortitude it takes to do certain things approach wise. And we've seen like teams go up and feel like they accomplished something and feel like they feel like a little lax. Like Indy got one on the road. I'm not saying that that's what they thought, but it's still there, right? We got one. That was the goal, right? Nobody go. I know you feel like you can win every game, but being like really realistic, go in, like let's just try to keep one on their home floor in this first one. And I think they got one. They got that first one, and you kind of ride that high a little bit, and your approach is not as desperate as OKC's is, because OKC does not want to go back to Indy 0-2. And I think it goes back to there's only ever one game to play. As present as Indiana is the unit, like that's on both sides. It's happened to OKC in Minnesota. Like there's only ever one game to play. I don't care that you can win it at home even if you lose this one. Like that's the lesson that these teams have to learn, right? And that players need to learn, period. There's only ever one game, one possession at a time. And I think that's interesting to see as these teams move forward and grow into experience, right? Experienced teams. Especially if these teams can stay together with all the other stuff that goes in the summertime. We'll talk about that another time. But the making of a killer instinct has been interesting to watch from just like the grand scheme of basketball and this changing of the guard. And it's given us a chance to be able to teach it because we have examples of it, right? Like that's one of the things that something you don't see watching the league when there's been the same teams in the championship year after year, and the usual the usual suspects, right? That was crazy. Sheesh. I just want to talk, brain. Just let me. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with the usual suspects. When guys are great, there's great. We get to teach a lot about greatness when we get to see guys like to watch LeBron go to the finals every year. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be talking about him. This got nothing to do with him. I got follow my own rules. But to make my point, that if we're present with the game, there's always lessons that we can teach the younger players coming up that are going to be needed for them to be fully complete players and great players. And that's where I'll leave it at. But the kid headed to Indy though. So we're gonna get Final Talk 4, maybe from Indy, maybe from London. That's another, we'll talk about that later. But it's been great. Playoff games, been great things to watch. There's been a lot that's been learned, or at least for me watching it. And that's part of the other reason why I'm doing this, because I hope that the game itself can become entertainment for you too. I have nothing against the entertainment side. I just know that if we continue to neglect the game, the representation of the game, then all of that is going to go away. Like the popularity can't change the standards or can't change us from really understanding what it's trying to teach us and being present and really understanding how great the game is. Because if we can get better, then we can get more of those byproduct things, if that's the way you want to look at it. But if we can get better as people, as men, as women that play this game. There's always something there. Peace.